Hello, everyone. It's Friday Takeaway Podcast again, and I am super pumped to introduce our today's guest. It's Ralf Wenzel. Thank you very much for coming, Ralf. Thank you very much for joining us. You had a great experience launching and scaling Foodpanda, a successful deal with Delivery Hero, and then working in the global management there, and then taking a pause from last mile delivery. You come back with an ambition of building Amazon on steroids, JOKR, right? And bringing all the dream team back together. Super pumped. Thank you very much for finding time, and very much looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Great to be here and looking forward to it as well.
First of all, I would like to talk about the competition and the landscape on the market that we have right now, because there are a lot of talks about consolidation, and there are definitely a lot of things happening on the market, right? Like, it was born yesterday, now it has 5 unicorns, JOKR among the unicorns, and companies buying each other, like Delivery Hero buying Glovo, and Volt being acquired by DoorDash. From the perspective of the competition, how do you see the market developing in 2022?
Yeah, so I think in order to understand the landscape, I think we have to go 2 steps back and look into why is it that there are a number of players that are tapping into that market and that have the ambition to change the way retail works, and also change the way how like online platforms or online retail works. Why is it the case? It is because we see a fundamental change in demand, and we see a further development of the so-called secular trends. So what we have already observed over the last 20 years that the JOKR team is building companies is that user behavior is changing, and user behavior has recently been changing at an exponential pace. And that has nothing to do with the pandemic, that has nothing to do with COVID. And obviously during the pandemic, we saw a certain acceleration in the change of behavior. But it's a longer standing trend, and we have seen a change in user behavior already with the introduction of internet in the late 90s, and especially over the last 20 years. And that change developed in an exponential way. And what are those secular trends? The secular trends are that people are moving more and more from so-called offline behavior to online behavior. 20 years ago, 95% up to 100% of the population were doing all of their shopping offline, in offline stores, in offline supermarkets, in small shops, which was time consuming, which was not necessarily transparent, which was not giving them access to a very personalized offering, which was not sustainable, and so on and so on. And with the introduction of technology and the evolution of internet and the evolution of digital technologies, the evolution of data science, user behavior was impacted as well. And user behavior was allowed to change. And why did we, as the JOKR team, decide to tap into that market? Because we see user demand changing more than how existing offline and online incumbents were able to react to that. And we think that the likes of the Amazons, the likes of the Instacarts, the offline chains that you have out there for supermarkets and for like other retail chains are not adhering sufficiently to user demand. And user demand is changing more and more towards a faster proposition, a proposition that can resolve on user needs faster than
right here and right now.
Exactly. User behavior has become more spontaneous. People are appreciating more the now, the immediate nature of getting certain needs fulfilled. They're not planning ahead as much as they did before. Users also want to have a specific angle towards personalization. Everyone wants to be special. Everyone wants to have its own inventory, its own assortment. Everyone wants to be appreciated as the ultimate king or the ultimate queen of the entire user base. People care more about sustainability than ever before. People care about where's the product coming from, who has produced it, how much has it traveled the world. People care also much more about pricing than ever before, because we live in a world where everything is made transparent. So all of these different attributes together, and the fact that users have become significantly more sensitive for propositions that are not fulfilling on the promise to 100%. So if there are platforms out there that are only fulfilling on their promise to like 90%, 80%, even 95%, users are much less forgiving than they would have been like five or 10 years ago. So the requirements to meet customer demand and customer particularities are bigger than ever before, and they're not being fulfilled by any of the traditional companies. And
For
hence,
sure.
the challenge for all of us is to say, what do we do on the user experience side, on the delivery side, on the supply chain side, on the product and technology side, in order to adhere to 100% to where user behavior is trending? And how do we make sure that we build a platform that is not outdated in another year, like many of the other online platforms that were started like 10 years ago? We need to make sure that we keep the pace and that we build a robust, agile, and iterative platform and structure that allows us to continuously adapt to where user behavior is trending. And the market is that big that there is space for so many different players. Look at the offline retail space. There are thousands and tens of thousands, if not even hundreds of thousands of different players and brands. For sure, in the online world, there will be a stronger concentration. There will be a stronger aggregation. There will not be hundreds of thousands of successful players, because we can leverage economics of scale. We can create synergies. We can operate cross-country platforms. We can utilize the same technology for many different geographies and user demographics. However, it's a market that will fundamentally shift from a market that is time-consuming, offline, intransparent, neither ecologically nor economically sustainable, to a market that needs to be sustainable, that is like where the majority of ordering happens online, that is more personalized, that is faster, and hence we see a whole industry shifting. And in order to absorb the shift of an entire industry, it needs more than just one player. One player would not be able to absorb the complete shift of a generation in terms of user behavior and the complete shift of a complete industry.
Not even one player per continent or per country.
No, I think there will be also several players per continent. Obviously, every player that is currently out there has the ambition to be one of the leading, if not the leading, right, player in the respective focus geography. And there are focus geographies. So like all of the players that you have cited and mentioned and that you will be mentioning have their core geographies.
Right.
So there is, to a certain extent, some complementary positioning. But regardless of that, even though there would be overlaps in one or the other geographies, I think in every country, in every neighborhood, and also in every geography and bigger region, there is space and opportunity for several profitable players. And that makes us so excited. And that was the reason why we started the business about now 10 months ago.
Definitely. I cannot agree with you more about the customer trends. And it is so visible, especially in the bigger cities where people value convenience and time more. Like London is just booming. And I'm sure New York has the same. And the most exciting for me, that it is so early, it is so small, and it's already so visible, but it's not even making a dent yet in offline. And that's why there are so many people, so many companies and brands are needed to bring this innovation and this evolution into retail. And I absolutely agree with you that there is a lot of room for everyone right now. Not everyone will be funded though, right? Because it is a lot about the efficiency. It is a lot about understanding that you're actually a retailer. It's not just that you're delivering and it's a cool thing, but you need to have the unit economics and you need to have the understanding where you're going, right? Because offline does not get overnight profitable, and people forget about how much infrastructure was built by Tesco's and Walmart to get where they are, and their margins are still very tight just because it is retail. And I believe that dark stores model has actually more potential in the margins because of the hyper local convenience that you can provide, which is a super not consolidated space that cannot be taken by the bigger giant retailers with the legacy, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of already deals happening, right? Like GoPuff purchased Dija and Fancy and went to UK last year and is expanding within Europe and UK. There are many events happening in the industry. What do companies need from your perspective to keep on the funding going? Right? Because you need a lot of cash to build all this technology, build all this infrastructure. It's not that you can build a product overnight that will actually be the new retail. It's something that needs to come evolutionary in each and every one of the companies, because all of you have different strategies, different target customer, right? But what is needed from your vision for the company to show the signs that it is moving in the right direction, that it is actually building a sustainable business, and the economics with this strategy will work eventually?
No, as you rightly said, it is a business and a proposition that is significantly more complex than other online marketplace companies, or even more complex than, I don't know, just running your own single retail shop. It is potentially, if we look into the basically online worlds, and if we look into like online platforms and like the online marketplace type of ecosystem, it is most likely one of the most complex propositions out there, because you build and you need to build a completely vertically integrated platform. Vertically integrated means you need to take care of the ordering process of customers, which is already complex enough, as you have to resolve on like personalization, on payments, on the user interface component of
the last mile delivery itself, right?
It is a challenging thing. Take care of the last mile of the logistics, but the most complicated part of our business is to resolve on the procurement and supply chain infrastructure. Because this proposition only turns profitable. This proposition only is able to adhere to customer demands of personalization and speed and ecologic and economic sustainability if you cut out middlemen, you procure as directly as possible, and most importantly, if you only procure what is needed and when it is needed. So if you
in the exact dark store.
Exactly. If you're able to forecast what customers want and when they want it, and apply that to your ability of procuring into your own warehouses that you operate yourself. So in essence, you're building a last mile delivery company, you build a marketplace company, you build a warehouse management company, you build a procurement and supply chain company, and to a certain extent, you build your own CPG company, as obviously this proposition bears a lot of potential to create your own brands and your private label offering. So you're basically creating like 5 or 6 companies in one. And that only works if you have an incredibly talented team and an incredibly focused and highly executional team that is able to go into the details, that is process obsessed, that adheres to high standards of operational excellence. And as we all know, the biggest resource for a company to succeed is talent. And there's a lot of media and there's a lot of press around the capital need for companies to build on their respective idea and proposition. We believe that there is a lot of capital out there, and given that this proposition is significantly more attractive than any offline retail proposition, than any other online marketplace proposition, we believe that capital will not be a constraint for those type of companies going forward, as we have a different profitability profile, as we're attracting more users organically, as we have higher retention rates, But what all of us as companies need to especially focus on is how do we attract, retain, and build out great talent, because only a great pool of talents allows you to resolve on the complexity of that type of proposition. And depending on the geography, depending on the competitive landscape, there's a different kind of battle for talents. And the battle for talents out there is the real challenge for all innovative and especially online companies, as the talent pool keeps on being very, very limited. And depending on the country that we're in, there's not much enough done for building out and educating talent to basically be attractive for a new generation of online companies. So the talent pool, be it in Europe, be it in the US, be it in the United States, keeps on being very, very small. And hence we have to work together with local authorities, with governments, with educational institutions to make sure that not only for our generation of companies, but also for the upcoming generation of online companies and innovative companies, there's sufficient talent in order to resolve on the complexity of our future.
Definitely. And I think that actually the number of intelligent talent that already was available on the market for such a growth of ultra-fast groceries in 2021 is something that was prepared by the legacy of on-demand culture growing from Ubers, from Food Pandas, right? From all these companies that were already building this last mile, the on-demand economy, developing the gig economy in general for quite a while. And these prepared new entrepreneurs like you, like Khan, like many, many others, who came up with a better version 2.0, right? The retail, the new last mile. And it is great that this industry is developing so quickly, even though it, of course, needs more.
Yeah, I mean, especially in our case, we have been able, luckily able to basically leverage and work together with a lot of those people that we've been working together with over the last few years in previous companies. And that made, I think, the real leapfrogging success of the JOKR business, because I had the opportunity to partner up with the team that created the Food Panda business,
right?
The team that I've been building other businesses with before. Some of us have been working together for 20 years. And hence, right from the beginning, we had the luck and the opportunity to work together with a very, very proven team. We always refer to it as like a well-oiled machine. And hence, we were not facing the difficulties that maybe other startups that are starting from basically zero,
yes,
first-time founders are experiencing, that they obviously need to attract a lot of talents. A lot of them succeeded on that. But I think we have been very fortunate to be able to count on a lot of those people that we have been working together with before. And that marked basically the foundation of our growth story. All of us, all companies in that space, we have to execute, we have to build great technology, we have to reinvent processes, we have to build a completely new generation of procurement and supply chain infrastructures. But all of that requires people. And here, I think we had a strong, basically a strong benefit of counting on resources and team members that have been working together for a very, very long period of time.
That is absolutely true. I believe that you guys with your experienced management team definitely can save yourself and your investors a lot on the common sense kind of mistakes. If you have already ever been working with last mile rather than just stepping up in the business and deciding to do the 15 minutes delivery because it is something pretty trendy, right? And from this perspective, actually what caught my eye in one of your interviews, I think it was when you became a unicorn. Congrats on that once again. You mentioned that and Aspa, I think, commented on that, like we were not really looking for the money. It's not that we need the money, like we are good on the finances. And from the beginning, you were not given as much of a significance to finance as to like operations and talent and scale and these kind of things. Is it because you understand the math and you are more efficient, or is it because of the markets that you choose that like you find these balance easier in terms of the attracting, not being as much in a race of these capital raise that most of the companies are playing right now? You know what I mean? It's like it's somewhat you were always kind of like very much confident about the funding and not as much chasing it, rather keeping it more on the operational side and growing, building on the funds that you have already attracted, right? And using what you have efficiently, right? Because it was not as much compared to other companies.
Yeah, I think there are different elements here. The first element is that indeed, like we as a team have been building other companies before. We learned a lot from the experiences, from basically shortfalls, mistakes that have been made. And I think we have been basically building this business right from the beginning in a very analytical, diligent, and also forecasted way. And often as you build companies, especially on the online side, you feel tempted to launch first and think second. In this case, we made it a little bit the other way around, that we looked into the underlying markets, tried to understand them as much as possible on a per neighborhood level. Also thought around the underlying technology platform, how we need to work with data, what type of capabilities do we need to embed as part of our platform that allows us to predict as accurately as possible what customers order and when. How do we make sure that we build a global platform that allows us to tap into certain neighborhoods, cities, and countries very fast, easily, and efficiently, but also in a very, very fast way, take the decision to say the underlying data or the underlying infrastructure in one particular neighborhood is not as attractive in another one. So we can basically operate a little bit like a plug and play type of mechanism to say there's an international, a global team, a global platform surrounded by like great operational entrepreneurs that are focusing on specific regions. And we're building out this business like neighborhood by neighborhood.
Right,
and,
right,
we see neighborhoods working better. We see other neighborhoods not working as good as others. And we obviously always iterate and move and adjust towards those micro areas, because it's a micro area focused business. It's a neighborhood focused business that are more promising, that are faster growing and more profitable than others, right? And we're not saying that you can't make like also the weaker neighborhoods work. Right. However, with the capital that we have, with the pool of talent that we have, which is limited, with management attention that is limited, we then constantly focus on those neighborhoods and areas that we think are most efficient and where also the capital is being invested in the most efficient way. Other people would refer to this type of philosophy of like succeeding fast, but also failing fast. Right?
Exactly. It's like you try and learn, test and learn, and on the way you see what works. And if it doesn't, you're like, okay, it's fine. Why to kick a dead horse, right?
Exactly. And I think it also has to do with basically us as founders having put in quite significant amount of capital into this company. We've built other companies before. Right. And we decided to not only invest lifetime and significant lifetime into this business, but we have also invested our own capital into this business. And I think the balance of having put our own capital, having had a selection of a variety of very, very strong investors that invested into this business, with more than 30 international blue chip investors that have invested into this business. Some of them got announced, others didn't get announced yet. So we benefit from, again, a well complementary set of large international institutional investors. We raised additional working capital debt in order to finance the build out of our warehouses and the inventory costs.
Yes.
So we are using a mix of equity proceeds and working capital debt proceeds in order to have a balanced financing structure for the different parts of our business. And we are operating in a very basically incubating way to have created this incubation platform for local quick commerce businesses in every single neighborhood, where we allow ourselves to tap in at very low cost and very efficiently. But in case things do not evolve as we've expected them, also take the conclusions to shift focus towards those neighborhoods and areas that we deem as more promising and more profitable.
This is really cool that you, first of all, I think it's very much respect the fact that when you actually put the money where your mouth is, this is a different game than just like, you know, gambling on someone's cash. And this is a different level of responsibility. And what I really never seen actually anyone else doing, but you have the co-founders on the local markets, right? And these whole infrastructure, like the big net of smaller businesses, independent entrepreneurs who are responsible for what they know exactly. And now I get even better the thought that you shared about the need of the talent. It's not just talent. I think it's also more personalities are needed for the industry who are willing to take the responsibility for the victories, for the losses, right? Because there are good and bad days, and there are different situations in business. But it's definitely a very interesting point. Thank you for sharing more background on that. In terms of the opportunity that the industry has, only a few % of all groceries are bought online and delivered. And it's not even 15 minutes groceries, but like planned delivery and all that worldwide. So the opportunity is huge. It can be 20%, it can be 30%, it can be 50%. I'm not the fan of the illusion that offline will completely die. It won't. But online is so young that it can grow very quickly. The infrastructure is there, the habits are there. Again, the trends and the customer behavior are all pushing for that. And the market could be developing quicker if there was enough talent, if there was enough workforce, if there was enough technology, because you cannot build the product overnight. But how big do you think this whole Q-commerce instant delivery in general can be from offline or from all the online, for example, right? Because not all the online will be quick commerce. But this under 30 minutes standard, how big do you think is it going to be in terms of, I don't know, 10 years, for example?
I think also here we have to, and it's a very valid question, we have to go potentially 1 or 2 steps back. I think first and foremost, I agree with you that the online and the offline world will not coexist next to each other, but they will converge.
It will merge.
Integrate.
Yes.
I think
and this is what you are doing, actually. You're bringing these virtual shelves and providing you are the infrastructure through which like everything is going to lead.
Exactly. So I think in the future, it's hard to imagine that there will be offline players, pure offline players, that don't have an integration with the overall online world. That don't allow their customers to order online. That don't allow their customers to browse products online, to get informed online. right? And vice versa. I think the success of pure online platforms will be limited in terms of how much they can adhere to customer demand and customer requirements if they do not integrate with a certain basically proposition on the streets in respective neighborhoods that is able to adjust to very, very different demand profiles that we see from area to area and neighborhood to neighborhood. And obviously you do have customers and people browsing the streets. That will keep on being the case. So instead of speaking about an offline and online share, we believe that we're now seeing a trend towards an integration, a convergence of those two worlds. And that's exactly what we're doing with a vertically integrated proposition that leverages the strength of a location in a specific neighborhood with the ability to create surrounding technology for carrying out delivery, for making purchases also more customized, and for potentially one day even allowing customers to have a more personalized, a more integrated, again, also more sustainable, a more local product focused offline way of shopping their products. Because there's no reason why we should not at one point of time allow our customers to access the stores that we're operating anyway on a local
or click
basis.
and collect, or click and collect. I mean, take
for
away
picking up their products, or for browsing basically new brands that have been launched in any given area. So that's why we see it as a convergence over time. And we see that and we believe that the vast majority of retail in the future, the vast majority will be made and compounded of those players that know how to well integrate the offline world with the online world. And I think for us as online players, it is easier to tap into the offline worlds and resolve on the component of real estate, on the utilization of space, on looking into how to change procurement and supply chain processes with the use of technology, than the other way around.
Right.
Because 90% of retailers out there are entirely offline at this point of time. 90% of retailers out there do not have the experience of building a data-driven, machine learning-based type of way to forecast what customers want.
That is even too complicated.
If you look into how supply chain and how procurement works at this point of time, in the vast majority of geographies, in the vast majority of cases, procurement is done based on a piece of paper and a pen, or based on an Excel sheet. There's no underlying technology for how to resolve on supply chain. So that's why pure offline players will be significantly more challenged to move towards online than us coming from the online side and trying to disrupt, change, and enhance the way also space usage, retail space, procurement and supply chain processes would have to be changed in order to allow for that migration of those two worlds.
Absolutely agree that these welding kind of realities that we have, it creates so many opportunities for entrepreneurs on these seams where offline meets online that need to interact closer to each other. And again, this is basically the infrastructure that you're building will allow us to be more seamless when we buy something. It's never been easier to buy something online, but you have to wait for it for 2 days. And now you can get it under 30 minutes. To me, it's a miracle, right? And I definitely believe that it is something that we will keep on providing more opportunities on many industries, right? Grocery is also just the beginning.
Yeah, and just something to add, because basically both of us and like also the industry and media often refers to what we are doing as quick commerce.
Right.
I think in the future, it will be a more comprehensive proposition also when it comes to delivery times. Why do we resolve on the retail space and on the on-demand retail space in a way that we allow for what we call like instant delivery? Because we see demand out there, right? Customers want that. Customers are articulating that, and we see that proven in our retention rates, that they're excited about getting things delivered instantly and that they don't have to plan ahead, and that they can do things and order things very, very spontaneously. However, it's not the only use case out there. This is not the only thing customers want.
Absolutely.
And we see that there is a same demographic, even the same customers that next to looking for certain things to be delivered instantly, they would also appreciate potentially to get things delivered the next morning. Because there is a certain element where they're planning ahead for certain use cases in certain situations, for certain products.
Like for breakfast, I can
days
plan
of
for
the week
breakfast.
or hours of the day. They
Right.
decide spontaneously. In other situations, they're planning ahead more. So I think in the future, we want to adhere 100% to the different customer use cases. And if we see demand, which we do, for a proposition on top of the instant delivery proposition, whereby we would allow customers to put together a basket of products, they order instantly, but they can choose when they get that delivered. They can choose whether they want to have it delivered instantly, or they can choose whether they want to get it delivered next morning or in the evening when they get home from work. So that type of flexibility we are integrating as part of the JOKR proposition, because there is a need for instant. There's demand for instant. There's a huge market for instant. But if we really want to become what we said at one point of time, the Amazon on steroids for our key geographies that we are focused on, I think we need to be more appreciative of a wider range of different customer use cases and of different demand profiles.
Right. This is a very interesting thought. And exactly, there are many cases where I can order, but I don't need it. I want to order it right now, but I cannot get it right now. But if I don't order it, I will forget about it, you know, and then like, yeah, very interesting. Look, from the from the perspective of the geographies and the key operations markets, right, where you define for yourself the significance of growth. You were many times mentioning LATAM, and you acquired Daki there last year, right? And you have a very significant growth in the region, but you also have the operations in Europe and in United States, right? And I just cannot not ask about the recent publications on the informations and other resources about the talks of selling the operations in Europe and in the United States. There were talks about purchasing 1520 at the time. What is your focus on the regions? Is that really true that you are like in the test and learn phase where you are thinking about like switching the focus on the continents? Maybe you can share some information around the topic.
So the JOKR business got started in Latin America. It got started in a combination of Mexico and Brazil, with an expansion to Colombia, Chile, and Peru. And that was our original footprint. So that is where the JOKR business started now, again, 10, 11 months ago. We have been, I think, the very first company in many of those cities and countries that was basically implementing and living up to a new vision on how to resolve on, again, a new generation of online retail platforms with a strong grocery focus. And we have seen a super strong adoption, very strong demand in a geography that is significantly underpenetrated, and significantly more underpenetrated than many other geographies. Because the penetration of offline supermarkets and the penetration of equivalent online offerings is very, very low. Customers do not have a lot of alternatives for doing convenient offline grocery shopping in Latin America, not even speaking about proficient opportunities for doing basically online ordering of groceries. So we see basically an opportunity in Latin America that is very underpenetrated in a very big market, in cities that are incredibly dense and among a demographic structure that is significantly younger than, for instance, in Europe. In Latin America, we have the reverse demographic pyramid. The majority of people are below 30 years old. And as you can tell, and you and I know, it's especially the younger generations that become early adopters
Right.
of the new generation of technology. So the demographic structure, the lack of a supermarket offering, both offline and online, the level of under-penetration, but also our own access to those countries, because we've operated and have been working and focusing on those type of countries also before, the opportunity to have teams on the ground right from the beginning. And it is difficult to have teams in no matter which geography in the world.
For sure.
We benefited from the fact of having been able to build out fantastic teams in all of those different Latin American markets. All of that spoke at the beginning for focusing on launching our proposition in Latin America as a starting point. We then had the opportunity to expand towards the United States, which we equally see as an incredible opportunity. It's a huge market that is still, in terms of retail, significantly offline structured.
Absolutely.
Majority of the market is offline, especially on the procurement and supply chain side. There are a lot of inefficiencies. You have very, very interesting cities. And by the way, the US is not like one homogeneous type of country, but depending on
it's so far from it.
city,
Yes.
It is a continent in itself. It is a world in itself. And hence we never speak about the US, but we speak about the different cities, the different states. All of them qualify for as well, like a new generation of an online retail proposition. And relative to the market size in the US, the share and the penetration of online players, be it in the quick commerce business or be it like with a more comprehensive retail proposition, is very, very small. So
2.something%.
to build out, even in the US, we have a tremendous opportunity to build out the JOKR proposition as one of the leading players there, and we will keep on doing so. We will keep on operating the US, we will keep on expanding in the US, and we see that in between the United States and Latin America, there are a lot of synergies.
Right.
Because we can leverage the supply infrastructure, the procurement infrastructure, our relationships to local suppliers for different product categories for either markets. Because there are a lot of US products being sold in Latin America. There are a lot of Latin American products being sold in the US.
Right.
One can think about like even like fruits, vegetables, meat, wine, how big the basically Latin American share of products and of assortment is in the United States for US customers. So there are a lot of synergies that we can leverage. And obviously the Hispanic population in the United States
is huge.
A significant part of the overall income. And hence also from a branding, communication, and overall customer proposition perspective, there are not only synergies on the procurement and supply chain side, but also on the consumer side. And hence all of that together, the Americas, that is our footprint. And it will keep on being our footprint. And only because at this point of time, 90% of our business is Latin America.
Right.
But that's due to the fact that we've started in Latin America and that we have 5 countries operating there very successfully since a slightly longer period of time than the business that we've started in the US, which is only like half a year old.
Exactly.
So it's not even representative, but we keep on being very focused on it. It's very early in our progression and our development for the US. And obviously we will keep on operating it. We will keep on developing it with the same attitude of looking into respective neighborhoods, of adjusting our proposition on a single neighborhood basis, of expanding into different cities. And every city, every neighborhood will get its own appreciation, will get its own adjustment. And we keep on operating on that basis. The European business, though, is something that we have concluded on some few months ago already, where we have, I would say, tested the waters, but concluded that given the complexity of this business, given that you have to build a vertically integrated proposition, you have to focus all of your management energy and attention on making this work.
Right.
And you have to be careful not to spread too thin. And as I said, we have a lot of like synergies that we can leverage in between the US and Latin America in terms of how we work together, in terms of the time zones, in terms of the location of teams, in terms of the different suppliers we're working, which are not applicable to the European market. So for us, it was a question of management attention. It was a question of focus. And it was a question of really making sure that we're able to adhere to 100% of customer requirements that we decided a couple of months ago to not continue the European operation, which only represented like 1 to 2% of our overall business at the time.
Yeah, it was.
At the time when we decided to discontinue that. So at this point of time, we are a business that is to 100% focused on the Americas. We will keep on having that footprint. We will keep on expanding. You will see over the next few weeks and months, many more announcements of us going into additional cities in both North as well as like South America.
Exciting!
We have, on our commitment with regards to the Americas, nothing has changed.
Awesome. So, as of today, operations in Europe for JOKR, you're not already operating there, or what is the status? Is it all true about the negotiations about like possible sales and things like that?
We are indeed exploring, and that's what we've I think also said publicly. We're exploring basically different strategic options for the two basically small businesses in Europe, and so we're resolving on that over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much for sharing so many insights and really diving deep into very interesting topics and questions and explaining more about the industry and about JOKR business specifically. If you could share something in the end with the listeners, with the people who are watching this, maybe there is something more you would like to share about JOKR, about the industry. It was indeed tremendous pleasure to talk with you and to discuss the things that we shared today. It was super exciting, and thank you very much for finding time again.
Of course, yeah. No, would love to. And first of all, like thank you so much as well for giving me the opportunity to speak and sharing some thoughts and some insights. I think we're living in a world, both like economically as well as politically, where a lot of people are taking shortcuts and taking like headline news as the ultimate guiding factor for anything that is happening. But I think all of us need to be careful that we look underneath the surface. Whatever happens in the world, economically and politically, deserves a look into the details, a look behind the scenes, because only then you're able to basically come up with your own judgment and with your own opinion of how things really work. So the reason why we're also doing an effort on speaking up in podcasts, in the media, in the press, speaking openly to investors, to our customers, and to our team members is that there's so much in this retail work, in this retail world, that requires innovation, because it's paper-based, because it is extremely exhausting and time-consuming, because it is hugely inefficient, because it has a terrible negative ecological footprint. The way we're poisoning the world by the way retail works today is incredible. We can speak about like electric vehicles. We can speak about like different forms of generating energy. But if we don't resolve on the way how retail works, on how many times certain products have to cross the world before they end up at a consumer, the carbon footprint that nowadays logistics, procurement processes, certain brands and certain products carry, if we don't resolve on that, then there is no world in the future. So that's why we have said we need to create a different retail proposition that is not only adhering to what customers really want, and that has changed significantly over the last few years. We do not only have to build an online proposition that is finally significantly more profitable than any of the other online marketplaces out there. which have been struggling a little bit with profitability parameters. But we also have to build a retail proposition that creates a measurable, intangible impacts on preserving the world from a complete collapse, which, as you know, we're closer to than any time before. And these are the three different things that are driving us. And that's why we're here. And we're not saying that this will be easy. We're not saying that we're resolving on everything like from one day to the other. It will take time.
For sure.
It will take patience. It will take understanding. It will take investment as well. It will take like an incredible team. And it will take like opportunities such as the one between the two of us of speaking about it and trying to shed some light on what we're doing. So as such, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot. I really very much enjoyed this conversation, and I really believe that the industry and the world in general needs more improvers like you and JOKR team who sees all these inefficiencies, and you do it because you cannot not do it. Like it cannot be the other way. It's the really the drive of the progress. And I'm very much thankful that you found time today to share the knowledge and spread it more. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. Like, subscribe, like, comment, and yeah, looking forward for more. Thank you.
Thank you so much.